Namaste, my fellow life inquisitors, and thank you for joining me on another Power of Interpretation with Blu Yogi. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about something that I would like to say is near and dear to my heart. And the reason it is because, power interpretation, once again, it's like how we perceive ourselves, right? And in order for us to feel close to other people, I think it's very important to know where you're coming from, like who you actually are when you feel like you're in the best mood, and then when you feel like when you're not in the best mood, or when you're doing something on purpose, aka consciously, or when you're doing something that just kind of just happens because it's out of habit, or it's just the way you've been living your life, so to speak. I call these things tendencies. So we all have tendencies, and some of them come out consciously, some of them come out unconsciously. For example, I was talking to someone earlier today, and we were talking about the times when I used to get loud with my son in order to teach him, like, hey, don't do that. But I don't think he took it as what I was trying to put it out as. I think he took it as daddy's yelling at me. And in my head, I knew that I didn't want him to think I was yelling at him, but it still continued. And after a while, when I used to see his face, I go, man, you need to really change this, Blue. And when I started to change it because I wanted him and my family to know that if we're our compassionate, understanding self, that we can just get over anything, so to speak. So I wanted to talk about this topic today, which is, what is your favorite lust? What is your tendency when you're in a good mood, and what are your tendencies when you're in a bad mood? Or just what are your natural tendencies that you just grew up with based off of your culture, religion, race, or whatever, right? So we all have tendencies, and I think it's really amazing when we're able to admit to the one that we quote unquote are, and to do something about it. Because once we do that, we can know that we're speaking to somebody else from that tendency space. All right, does that make sense? If it doesn't, please say something below. So the 7 deadly sins, I remember thinking about the 7 deadly sins and like, what are these 7 deadly sins? And I was like, I'm not none of them. They're called sins. And then I did this exercise with my perspective where I was like, well, Blue, there's this thing called the Myers-Briggs test. Even in that test, the personality test, you know that you lead with one of them, but you're not all of them. The 5 love languages. There's 5 love languages. Maybe we'll talk about that another day. But even though you lead with 1 or 2 of them, you still have all of them. There's these 4 business colors. And I break these all down with a lot of people I talk to, as far as like artist development or just consulting people. And so we go over these things, and people go, well, I'm not that, I'm this. And I have to let everybody know we're all of them, but we lead with 1 of them as far as our tendencies and how we've developed our mindset, our personality, our emotions, our thoughts, and as a whole. Because when I say oneness self, it's all inclusive. Whatever that person did, that piece is in you. That's why you're able to relate to it, but maybe you wouldn't do it because it's not your tendency way. Okay? So I want to talk about 7 deadly sins because I remember thinking about them and going, man, you got to figure out which one of those are your natural tendencies, because then you'll figure out how you're actually going about this world. And I didn't relate to a lot of them, so it took me some time to really sit with this and develop my understanding. I had to put my awareness, had to go into overdrive, so to speak, to figure out what was going on. And just like before, I want to go over the definitions online, okay? So the 7 deadly sins, what are they? In no particular order. I just saw this order, and that's it. So the first, lust. Sin number 1, lust. Well, first, let me talk about a sin. Like, what is the definition of sin? Let's look that up really, really quick. Sin, an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. Okay? An immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. So, if we're being immoral, so now you see me think about this right on one spot. I read the other ones already, but okay, so an immoral act. So, immoral. Not conforming to accepted standards of morality. So, the accepted standard of morality. All right. So, for human species, it's basically be kind to others, otherwise it's immoral. Be kind to yourself, otherwise it's immoral. Okay. So that's what we're going to just leave it at. And I'll break it down later if anybody has a question about it, or if I get some comments later, because I am going to be talking about authenticity, because I did have somebody talk about that, but I'm waiting on a friend who's on a spiritual retreat to talk about authenticity. That's going to be a later episode. But anyways, I wanted to talk about this. So a sin is going against the moral acceptance that is, basically. I'm just breaking this down real quick because I want to get into the actual episode here. And then immoral is not conforming to the accepted standards of morality. Okay? And that can differ from like culture to culture, race to race, species to species, like, and all that, right? So from a power of interpretation place, I like to just leave it at the space of, well, our species, because human species is one race to me. All right, it's not like we ain't gotta break it up down into black, white. Like, do white people have less? Yes. Do black people have less? Yes. Do Mexicans have less? Yes. Do Asians have less? Yes. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and it comes at different ages. Okay, so these qualities, these things that we're talking about right now, let's take off the what I'm going to call our micro race, and let's go to our macro race. Our macro race is the human species. Okay, so what is considered immoral to the human species? Not being truthful and lying to others and yourself in a lot of ways. Okay, so some things can happen. I noticed after understanding what the 7 deadly sins were, I was like, oh well, some of these things can happen, but you can still not do it like against somebody in a bad way. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So let's go over the 7 deadly sins real quick, and then I'll come back to that. So lust is a very strong sexual desire. And the other definition, have a very strong sexual desire for someone. Okay? And as I'm talking about these, think about which one your tendencies go toward the most. So you might go to some of these, man, that's not me at all. Just know it's still there, but it's just not your tendency way. Gluttony, the habitual greed or excess in eating. Habitual greed or excess in eating. Greed is the third one. Intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. So greed is the third one. An intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. Okay? The fourth one, sloth. A reluctant to work or make an effort, and then aka laziness. So a reluctance to work or make an effort, or laziness. In the second definition, a slow-moving tropical American mammal that that hangs upside down from the branches of trees using its long limbs and hooked claws. That's not what I mean about sloth, okay? So we're going to go with the first definition. A reluctance to work or make an effort, aka laziness. Okay, wrath is the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5, we're at 5. Extreme anger is wrath. And I don't like it puts chiefly used for humorous or rhetorical effect. But we'll say wrath is having anger towards someone or yourself, basically. Extreme. Okay, envy. Envy is a feeling of disconnected or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. So envy is a feeling of disconnected or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Okay? So I'm envious of that person. I can't believe they have that stuff. I'm envious of that person. Look at how they are. Look at those qualities. I'm envious of that person. They're just so lucky. I wish I was lucky. And then I guess there's another definition. Desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attributes belonging to someone else or something else. Okay, envy. And then the last one is pride. So pride is a feeling or deep pleasure or satisfaction. Okay, it's a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements or the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated with. So my friends, I can be prideful of what they have. Or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. Okay, so if I have some qualities or possessions that are widely admired, I can take pride in that. So it's a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from my own achievements, my achievements of my close associates, or the stuff that I have that are widely admired. Second definition is confidence in self-respect as expressed by members of a group. So you have confidence or self-respect expressed by a group, typically one that has been socially marginalized on the basis of their shared identity, culture, and experience. So when we say the minorities, we can get very prideful and go like, well, we deserve this, I deserve that, because we're in our different group. The one percenters, well, they don't deserve that because they haven't worked hard enough. They're very prideful about what they have. Okay, so it can go either way. And then the last definition is to be especially proud of a particular quality or skill. Okay, so out of all these seven deadly sins, which one are you? And I just want to talk about this because when I speak of the oneness self, or the self that is connected to everything, which is your consciousness or the energy that we all have, it's just one energy, and then we map out our own individualism by our memories, our history, and our experiences. Okay? So I would like to say that one energy that is in everybody, is that energy the one that is holding on to these 7 deadly sins? Or is it that individual self that we made up, that we know we are when we say me? Right? So that's me. This is me. That part is separate from your oneness self. That's why we call it your oneness self, or your spiritual self, or your divine self. Right? So if we have our divine self separate from our egoic self, or our individual personality self, these are two different qualities that can hang on to, quote, so to speak, hang on to these 7 deadly sins. So I would like to say, if you're not like an enlightened being going around here all perfect, then you have to have one of these tendencies somewhere mapped in your personality. the ability to admit which one kind of has the tendency in your personality is very powerful. And I want to talk about mine for a second. I found out that mine was lust, right? And what's crazy about that, it took me a while. I had to put a lot of self-awareness on it, because definitely not greed. I don't care about a lot of like wealth and power. Like I don't. It's just, if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I'm a hard worker. If you just look at my history, you just know that I'm not that lazy. The anger thing, I just told you, anger is the tendency could be in there. Like I said, I have all of these, but how fast I pick, how disgusting it is when it's actually coming out of me is just ridiculous. So I knew wrath wasn't mine. The envy part, if somebody else has something, I'm just like, cool. I actually appreciate when people have stuff. And then pride, I barely think about myself. I think about other people. So it was very hard for me to be like, what's one of my tendencies? And I found out that it was lust. And this was kind of crazy to me, because when I was growing up and all my homeboys around me, they saw a lot of girls around me, but I was not the one to be like, oh man, she's around because of this, man. Like, I can't wait until this happens. I never did that. A lot of my boys around me, they had a very strong sexual desire. I didn't have a very strong sexual desire, so it was very confusing to me, right? But I knew that it was okay, and I'm somebody who didn't mind exploring that side of my personality very much, right? Once again, if it was there, it was there. It was not, it wasn't. So this definition, I wanted to actually ask if we can just change that definition a little bit, because I lust for knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Like, lust does not only have to mean a sexual desire. I found out that my lust came from my intellect, okay? So it wasn't a prideful energy coming from my intellect, but I did see all these books behind me and just wanted to know, like, I have a deep desire for that. And that's why I want to change the word lust to sometimes. Like, if we only look at it as a sexual desire, we could miss that we're actually being lustful, okay? So let's change the word from lust for the ones out there who doesn't have a sexual urge, like I didn't have. I didn't care, but I did have a strong desire for stuff. And let's just look at the definition of desire. Desire is a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. Okay? Desire, a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. And then the next definition is strongly wish for or want something. Okay? I have a strong desire to know what this human is. That's why I got into acting, because I was like, I want to know everything about the human. I want to know about the intellect. I want to know about human behavior. I want to know all of it. Give me all of it. And I would do anything to get that knowledge most of the time. Like, I would leave my kids, the house, whoever I was with, single now, but whoever I was with, I would say, ignore all of that. Let's not go to the movies. Let's go buy some information so we can just learn, right? So I have a strong lust for knowledge, and like I say, me being able to admit that within myself and differentiate the sexualness side of it from the straight up regular desire, because I don't like the definition of like what lust says, because not everybody has that strong sexual desire, but people do desire or lust for other stuff. Okay, so and sometimes it can be intertwined with greed, right? So in greed, once again, is an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. So I could be wrapped up in that too, you know what I'm saying? Because having my own intellectual property could be a selfish desire of mine, all right? So I wanted to talk about this because I really would like this to be a conversation, because the sooner we start being able to see our personality side, the sooner we can separate from it and go, okay, well, oh, that just came out of my personality. It's not my true self. But if you can't see the separation, then the ego, what it's going to do is it's going to try to protect the safetyhood of your identity. All right? I hope that makes sense. So the ego could be unconsciously happening and trying to protect from that idea of one of the 7 deadly sins, because it's called a sin. And nobody wants to admit that they're being sinful. You know what I'm saying? But if you can put an awareness on it, your awareness will go, oh, it's not a sin in this case, because what's a sin again? It's hold on, I got rid of the definition. So, a sin is an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. So, and an immoral act is not conforming to the accepted standards of morality. Now, all these things live in all of our personalities. The only thing that is pure is that pure divine self. That's why we call it the pure self, the oneness self, the divine self. That's the only thing that actually is pure in here. Now, if we didn't have our egoic personality side, we would just not exist. Okay? So, it's important to be able to take a look at these things, because then we can go, oh, am I being immoral, or do I just have a tendency that I need to watch, and I can now I can do something with it. Now I could mold it the way that I see fit. So the lust or whatever that lives in me, I've been able to now mold it, and I've been able to express it to people around me in different ways, and especially Laura, my life mate. I've been able to express it to her a different way, because it sounds weird if I go around saying, yeah, I'm very lustful. But it comes from the intellect side. It doesn't come from the need of the sexual urge side. So I wanted to have this conversation because, the more that we're able to be true to ourselves, the more other people will see our true self. Okay? And I just want to end it on that. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful week. I believe it's Monday. Yeah, so have a wonderful week. Namaste, and until next time. Peace.